So I've been wanting to do a talk on things people do, myself included, that help ensure that you won't hit your goals. So I know that sounds counterintuitive, but I see myself do these things from time to time, and definitely people that I talk to, there's kind of a usual set of beliefs or ways that people structure goals that almost guarantee that they won't pursue them or won't hit them. And I thought it'd be fun to look at this because, very often people talk about what you should do to how to set SMART goals or how to set what's called a well-formed outcome. And I definitely recommend those things. And perhaps I'll do another talk on those. But I wanted to sort of hit these sort of head on and just say, if you're doing these, good chance you're not hitting your goals. So some of these are grouped into a little bit of clusters. Some of them have a similar flavor, but show up in different ways. So the first one is that people who make it like an all or nothing thing, like, either I'm performing at Carnegie Hall or I'm not a performer, or either I'm going to get into this school or no schools. And I would say the biggest problem, well, there's a lot of problems with that. One is very often you're setting an impossible standard, or a near impossible standard. So that's really hard to show up for day in, day out. And the other thing that's wrong with it is it doesn't allow for progress or incremental growth along the way. And I think that's the biggest problem with it. So I mentioned the idea of impossible standards. A lot of times I'll suggest to somebody like, okay, do your push-up every day, something like that. And people kind of look at that and they say, that's nothing. Like, unless I can do 100 push-ups a day, I'm not doing it. So this is another example of the same thing. And the problem with that is very often they don't do 100 push-ups a day. So it's like you have this standard that you're not hitting and you're not letting yourself build up to it. And that's really problematic. So I'll say to somebody, like, do 1 push-up a day and build up. And they'll say, that's crazy. I can do, 30, 40, or 50 push-ups. But the problem is they might do it once, but they're not building it as a consistent habit. And it's the consistent habit that will eventually build to something that builds to the bigger result. And that kind of dovetails into the next one, which is like the other side of that is not seeing examples in your life of where little things have grown into big results. And I find that when people don't find examples of this in their life, then they don't believe, it's like they don't believe that those little steps will add up. And it's amazing to me when I work with somebody and they finally get a reference where they see, like, okay, 1 push-up led to a habit. And then eventually that led to doing, a few more push-ups and a few more, and so on and so on. And it's like, as soon as they get that in a visceral way, then they really take off. But in the beginning, it seems like, what's 1 push-up? So I'm not going to even bother with that. And that's the biggest problem, because they don't think it's a big deal. They don't bring the consistency that will build it into a habit and build it into something bigger. Another way of saying that is they try to take on too much on a given day. And the other place that people get into trouble with that is, let's say they do bust out their 30 push-ups. The next day they may not feel like it, and when they don't make that, they just give up. They're like, oh, that's it, I fell off. The workout's done. I think I'm never gonna work out again, or I'm off the diet, or I'm not going to do my daily habit of reading or whatever it is. The other thing is expecting to be perfect all the time. So let's say you're well-meaning and you know, you're going to do your push-up every day, or you're going to write every day. And let's say you have a day and your writing is horrible. Very often, if people's standards are too high, they'll just stop. They'll give up right then. It's like, oh, this isn't going anywhere. This isn't leading to anything. And people don't realize that a lot of it's not bad effort. A lot of efforts that are not very high quality lead to big efforts of high quality down the road. Another way that people really mess it up is by just saying to themselves, like, I'm never going to stick to this, and actually imagining not sticking to it. And so it's like they've given up in their mind before they've even attempted it in the world. And you know, if you are constantly telling yourself, like, this has never worked for me, blah, 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 you're kind of projecting that failure out into your future so you can do it again and again and again. And it's ironic because you've learned how to do that consistently, so you can learn how to do something else consistently. If you've learned to fall off of a diet consistently, you can learn to fall onto a diet consistently. The other thing that, the other area that people get into a lot of trouble with is expecting evidence of results every day. So, you know, like when I would go to Aikido, if I expect to get better every day, I'm going to get crushed, because progress doesn't happen that way. Progress happens over time. And yes, you'll get little jumps where all of a sudden, all the work that you've done for 6 months will sort of click and it's there and available to you. But it's not something you can perceive on a daily basis. And what I recommend for people is the evidence that you want to see every day is not like evidence that you're improving or this or that. That's great when it happens. But the evidence to look for is that you showed up. That's the only evidence you need. If you have evidence that you show up again and again and again, you'll begin to get results that can build. And you know, that consistency is huge. You can look at my cooking as an example. You know, in the beginning, like, most of my cooking wasn't that great, but little by little, it's gotten better over the years. So these are just a handful of things that where people get into trouble on goals. And you may want to jot these down and just catch yourself whenever you're doing one of these, and just notice, like, this is the way to not get results. Let me flip it. Let me flip it and just do that one little step. And, you know, let me prove myself wrong by doing a little bit every day and building up to something. And instead of, you know, having a mantra of this will never work out, or I'll never be able to get this to work, change the mantra. Just even if you change it to, I don't know if it'll work, is much better than I know it won't work. So I hope you enjoyed that. This is a little bit of a twist, and I will probably do a part B to this because it's such a rich topic.